and just focusing on the characters and story.
Yeah, there is always. I feel like every film could be done movies by minute wise. Not every film should be, but every film could be at least. I'm trying to think of something like 12 Angry Men movies by minute would be, which we've talked about on your other podcast, Filmwise. Would be fun because it's all in one room, or it's two rooms as the bathroom as well, and so you're very limited, and it's always this. It's like 13 actors, so just trying to find new things to talk about over the course of that film would be interesting, be a challenge, I think. Yeah, but yeah. So you said you had a few things. Is there anything else that you think makes this look better?
I think it was mainly just like those two, and
Okay.
I don't know, maybe the soundtrack helps a little bit, and I didn't look it up, but I don't know why there's so much of an 80s vibe, like why the soundtrack is so synth heavy
Well,
at times.
Aquaman's theme is a guitar lick, which is is that bang is fun, and you get an 80s feel just from hey, Dolph Lundgren's in this film. Gives me an 80s feel.
And all the like neon, like
Yeah.
Atlantis is just completely neon colored.
Well, I think the 80s, for me at least, has always felt like the fun decade of media. Not necessarily the most like awards worthy, but just the most entertaining. Like if you think of all the 80s comedies. So Aquaman does kind of fit alongside the likes of those. Maybe. But when they're in Sicily and Mira's like running around jumping across the rooftops, that the soundtrack there goes very video game platformy to me, which fits because she's running along on platforms, and I just made, that sounds like a video game. It sounds like she's playing Mario or something as she's running around. So that fits as well. Yeah, it's just because it's a fun film, I think. But I did mention there is a lot of exposition. I think there is a DC EU Movies by Minutes podcast out there. Apologies, I haven't listened to it. There's a lot of movies by minutes. But if they haven't got to Aquaman yet, they're going to have a lot of lore to cover with this film because this is a very ambitious movie, I think. With
Quiz hot shots. Can you name all seven kingdoms of Atlantis?
no, there's Atlantis. Like I don't think I could name any of them. There's like the one in the desert, which I think is the deserters, which fits as nicely. And then there's the hidden one, which we don't see in this film for obvious reasons. There's the trench, which has all the like the monsters in it.
The primal.
Yep, the primal guys. There's the Crab Kingdom, headed up by John Rhys Davies.
Those are the brine.
Yep. Then there's Dolph Lundgren's one.
I, I I'm not sure. I don't remember if they're called the fish. I'm not sure if they are the fishermen. I know there is one called the fisherman.
Well, I think the fishermen are the guys who look like fish, which is Jaimin Hounsu is on screen for maybe 30 seconds and was in makeup for, I don't know, 7 days for that, like for 3 lines of dialogue. I thought, hey, this guy looks like Jaimin Hounsu. I didn't realize they were actually got him in it for this such a small role. And then, yeah, there's the main guys. There's Orms. So that's 7, I think. I did it. Hooray. I didn't name any of them, apart from the trench. But
I think it was 6, and I think you named one of them twice.
I'll
I
take
think
it.
you started with Atlantans, and then you ended with Orm, which I think Orm is the Atlantans.
That is true, almost. Well, yes. I did better than I thought I would then. So yeah, my main issue with this film was just how much exposition we're fed on. Like every 5 or 10 minutes, like every action sequence, halfway through it, like, wait a minute, son, let me tell you the story about this knife, and to tell the story of the knife. And halfway through the action sequence, wait a minute, remember that trident? Let me tell you the story of this trident. And then when Aquaman first meets Mira, it's just the most awful. Your half brother King Orm is about to declare war upon the surface world. Billions will die. Your people and mine. We must stop him. You're the firstborn son of Queen Lana. The throne is yours by birthright. The only way to do this is to become king. You have to go and get this trident. The trident is hidden somewhere. It just spends 10 minutes laying out the plot of the film. Half an hour into the film. there's a few scenes like
Nearly
that.
as fun as the foreshadowing in the Shaun of the Dead Bloody Mary stuff.
But that's played for comedy. This is played for this is played for like dead serious. Well, if this was intentionally meant to be comedy, then I feel like I missed that. But it feels very sincere when Amber Heard is handling that dialogue. And so it's also I'm trying to get my problems out of the way so we can get into the fun stuff. But it's a little bit long. It's 2 hours and 23 minutes long on Netflix.
I will admit that, as much fun as I was having, there were definitely bits of this movie where it's like, I'm not paying 100% of attention to what's going on in the movie.
Yeah, I'm not surprised I fell asleep first time I watched it because it is exhausting in terms of length and just the amount of information you're trying to take in and how much is going on the screen. It's a very draining film, and I feel like maybe it's trying to do too much all in the one film. Like, do we need to have Orm and Black Manta's origin story? I love Black Manta, everything about him, great. I also really liked Orm. Patrick Wilson, or as Mark calls him, P-Dubs, he does a great job in this film. He's like James Bond's best mate. He's in all his films. And I just didn't think we needed both of them. Or like Black Manta could have been an end credit sting, or had less to do in the film, or Orm less. I don't know. There's just maybe too much going on here. Having both of them and Thor's quest for the Trident, and the giant Cthulhu thing, and the half-hour-long battle at the end.
Yeah, and they had to add in the 5 minutes montage of Black Manta reconfiguring the Atlantan tech into his Black Manta suit.
I mean, honestly, maybe my favorite part of the film is I always enjoy a gearing up montage or someone tinkering. Like I'm a designer, I'm an engineer by trade, so watching people just tinker with this kind of thing and fixing things and making it work is great. I love that kind of stuff.
It's like I liked it by itself. It just felt like it kind of stopped the momentum of the movie for a minute.
It did, and up to that point, Black Manta had been quite a serious. He watched his father die, Michael Beach, star of Deep Sea 2. He watches him die, and that's where his hatred of Aquaman comes from. Aquaman left them to die. But then you have this scene where he's like tinkering with the tech and it blows a hole in the helmet, and he's like ducked behind a desk and he comes out and goes, "Oh!" It's very like surprised.
Feels very Iron Man-y.
Yes, it feels almost like he's like Justin Hammer or something. He's like trying to make the Iron Man tech work and it doesn't work completely.
Again, with the weird soundtrack choice, which I believe that was another one that felt very 80s. I want to say.
Yes, that's a very 80s scene. That's what I think. I can see this being in like a Back to the Future kind of thing of like Marty trying to make the time travel tech work and it exploding in his face. He's going to need a bigger helmet. And like part of me, also on Black Manta, part of me really hated the design of his outfit of looking like a Power Rangers villain. Just this giant bulky suit around a guy. But also I did appreciate that. It's a different villain look. He's not just another evil Aquaman. He's a different guy. I know Black Manta's from the comics. I've never read a comic in my life. That's just not something. That's not a world I'm from.
I think they did a good job. Like I'm not super familiar with Black Manta either. I know what he looks like from the Super Friends cartoon, I believe, and I think they did a good job of making him look recognizable as Black Manta, but also updating him so it is conceived like it matches with the rest of the Atlantans, but it looks different enough, but it's still from the same technological family.
Yeah. I haven't seen the Super Friends cartoon, but I'm assuming they maybe don't go into how the tech works in that. So I always like how they reverse engineer real world technology, or close to real world, the turning water into plasma. I don't think we have that yet, but like just kind of working out the physics of things and how it could potentially work into this. It shoots lasers out of its giant eyes, kind of thing. So that's nice. Yeah. So the main thing, we haven't really talked about Jason Momoa. The star of the film. When the trailer came out, I can remember everyone loving the scene where he comes onto the submarine and he comes down, does the hair fling, like, permission to come aboard, and everyone just kind of melting, watching that trailer. He's a very charismatic guy. I would argue that the real-life actor Jason Momoa is potentially more charismatic than the Aquaman on screen. What do you think about him?
I think it's a pretty good match where they adjust the Aquaman character to fit a bit more with Jason Momoa's personality, and so you get this hybrid character that's a lot more fun and charismatic than what we may have traditionally seen. Which again, Aquaman hasn't really hasn't had much screen presence outside of the Super Friends cartoon, which was from the 70s and 80s. About the only other thing was, he had a minor role in Smallville, where he was a recurring character.
And they had Entourage.
Yeah, the running joke, which I haven't seen that show, but I was aware that Aquaman is this long running joke in that show. Yeah, but this really makes him a more powerful character and a more charismatic character and less of a joke. And I love just, Jason Momoa, how can you not love this guy?
He is a very likable guy off screen and on screen.
Yeah, and he's somebody that I have seen in person. He showed up at a C2E2 that I went to, where I saw him do a panel, and he's just as charismatic off screen as he is on screen.
That's good to hear. So I think he was great casting. Prior to this, to me, he's most famous being Khal Drogo in the first season of Game of Thrones, but he's also has a following from Stargate Atlantis and Baywatch, where he did 44 episodes of one, 78 of the other. But then since Game of Thrones, he really had a lot of success. He was in Bullet to the Head. He was in Conan the Barbarian, which was during Game of Thrones. None of those did particularly well.
Although I actually enjoyed Bullet to the Head.
But I don't think it made a lot of money or was well received. I personally haven't seen it, so I cannot judge. But it felt like he found some footing when he was cast as Aquaman in BVS DOJ, and then again in Justice League and in his own film. And since then, he's done a few other things since then. So he's in the Apple show C, which I hear good things about, have not seen, and of course he's in Dune very soon, which he looks like he's a good fit for that one too. So I'm glad that he found this purchase with Aquaman, and it's led to bigger and better things. Not that he seems to be living a charmed life anyway. He gets to hang out with Lisa Bonet and Zoe Kravitz all the time. So good for him. So what did you think about all of the giant creatures, the giant seahorses and the sharks and everything that they ride on there? Are you on board with me saying that's all just a lot of fun? It's silly. Obviously there's no seahorses that you can ride that wear armor, but who cares? It's fun.
It feels like it's a callback to the Super Friends vibe.
Yeah, with the octopus playing the drums.
Yes. The very, Little Mermaid-esque kind of stuff. And it's just 80s, 70s, going again back to the 70s and 80s cartoon aspect of it, where it feels like a live action cartoon a lot of times when they're underwater. I mean, another little thing that I noticed is that for some reason they decided to make Orm's metal helmet be able to give expressions, like it moves. The eyebrows move on
I didn't see that.
This metal helmet. Yes.
I have to look out for that. That's incredible. So you mentioned Little Mermaid. This has probably been discussed elsewhere, I'm sure. But is Mira's design based on Ariel at all, with the red hair and the kind of blue-green turquoise wetsuit she seems to be wearing? Do you know?
I don't know officially, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, okay.
If there's some correlation there.
It feels too close not to be, at least inspired by, or an homage. So what do you think of Mira, of Amber Heard in this role? I don't think she gets... She's like a decent presence, but doesn't really get a lot to do character-wise.
Yeah, she's kind of like she has to be there, but she doesn't really